resolution. It did say J, it's supposed to be me. Because it says finance right
So
there.
that goes with draft. This one?
Oh, not exhibit, yeah.
Yeah, took my vehicles away.
on
You
the agenda.
always know I love my vehicles.
I didn't do that.
Oh,
The one
good.
who's done it.
Oh, good.
That would be the clerk.
So
it's you and me,
didn't
right,
want me to do
on
it.
stuff.
So I add
But if
that.
we're not passing it.
They
We're going to call the
Oh, I know that.
Land Use and Development Committee to order,
What are you gonna do?
and the ranking chair for that is you.
I believe so. Last I checked.
Me.
Thank you. Council, this is another in a series of legislation. I believe the mayor was passing out a draft, a smart draft. So this legislation is not on the docket this evening, but will be up at the next, and I believe we'll be needing to go to a third reading at the next council meeting. So this is a time to ask questions and make sure you review the draft. I believe we have a gentleman from Brick Road Eckler to
Graydon, yes.
Yep, bring us up.
It's an old habit, I know. Anyway. This is Caleb Bell. He is counsel for Bricker Graydon and is representing the NCAA.
I used the
and
old
city.
name, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
We've been working with those guys at the university for a good little while too, so my bad. My apologies to the new partner, and I'm sorry about that. So this is we're talking about Liberty Crossing, new community authority, and where are we on? Where are we in the process?
Sure, very good. Well, thank you very much. And is it fill-in chair? I'm not sure what your title is right now.
Ranking chair.
Ranking chair.
They call me the ranking chair.
Very good.
He's
Well,
ranking.
He is alone.
and council members, thanks for spending a few minutes on the project. I think that the mayor had passed out some information. What we wanted to do was give a little bit of an update. At this point in the process of development, the developers of the Liberty site, as well as the city, as well as the NCA, which you all formed as an entity, have all evaluated different aspects of the project. Aspects such as how much private improvement will be developed, how many units, what lots, etc. And then, of course, the public aspects of the site, what infrastructure is needed, how much is needed, where does it need to go. And so all the pieces are kind of coming together. What you have in front of you is a draft cooperative agreement, which is an economic document. This document, what it does is it causes revenue from the site to be gathered from the city as well as the community authority to come together to be able to support a debt issuance. That debt issuance will not be a city issuance. It will be a community authority issuance. That's important because you all are not putting your general credit or your bond capacity behind this project. Rather, the special revenues from the project support the debt. So it's kind of like the site paying for itself versus the city using its general credit, its credit card, to pay for the site. So that's a good thing because going forward, it's a good model for how you deal with individual developments that come along. You can see the mayor, I actually think this is the best place to start is the quick list of infrastructure. You'll see this is the infrastructure for the Series 2025 project, and you'll see some of the public improvements that are needed in order to get this site to function. Water, water boring, sanitary sewer, sanitary boring, as well as some road networking, turn lane, and then some engineering costs. So this gives you a sense of when the dollars come from the site, where will they be going? What will be paid for? It's these assets that'll be paid for. So the developer and the city have, again, continued a dialogue about what's the scope of what we're doing here, and we're at the point where we're kind of narrowing it down to dollars and cents of exactly what infrastructure will be installed. The final point I wanted to raise in general comments before questions and other thoughts was just to call to your attention the two revenue streams that are used and why one of them is a city-based revenue stream and one of them is a community authority. It's a different revenue stream. The two revenue streams come from TIF on the city side, tax increment financing, and then community charges on the community authority side. So what are those two revenue streams and why do they work? TIF, as you may know from other experience, what TIF does is it locks in a certain value, unimproved value, the raw land, and then all of the improvements on top of that pays taxes. Well, the TIF diverts that into a special bucket for this infrastructure. So TIF is part of the equation. It's part of how we get certain monies to pay for infrastructure. But that's not the whole story. The rest of the story is the community charge. And the community charge is what you're doing with the special entity that you formed, the new community authority. That is more like a spot-specific charge. It's a spot-specific assessment. So lots, including even commercial lots that are in that subdivision, will pay a little extra. So TIF is a normal tax, normal level. NCA charges a little extra. Put those two things together, and that's what gets us enough money to pay for this $3.465 million worth of cost. So the cooperative agreement is the city's side, and eventually, when council takes that up for consideration and passage, you would be authorizing the use of the TIF monies towards this infrastructure. Similarly, the community authority will later on take up an authorization to use the community charges to pay for its share of this infrastructure. That way we can get the infrastructure done. So that's kind of the roadmap, and hopefully that's a helpful outline for everybody. But happy to take any questions, or Mayor, if there are other notes that you'd like to give. So.
I just want to also let council know that we did receive the draft of the cooperative agreement. It's 50 pages, so I wasn't going to print out a whole bunch for you this evening. We will have that. We are looking at that very closely, and we'll have that as part of the legislation for you in time. As soon as we get the cooperative agreement, we'll get it into your hands so you can take a look at it. So I'm about halfway through this right now and reviewing it, and we'll continue to take a look at it. But yeah, I mean it's as expected. This I know that, and this is all new to us as well in terms of looking at new community authorities and TIFs cooperatively to pay for the growth. So anyway,
can we get the abridged version?
well. That could be costly. I don't know.
Yeah, Mr. Bowden, if I could ask.
Sure.
In layman's terms, the advantage to the city of the NCA is, the revenue comes in from the special site assessment.
Right.
But this access to this financing, this is where it kind of becomes a win-win for the developer, right? This is why the developer's interested in joining the NCA, so they can access this money. They don't have to come up with their own money to do these.
Correct.
Okay.
That's a fair assessment. A developer in a site like this will want to be able to maximize the opportunity from their site. And one of the ways in which they do that is they self-assess. They say, our site is going to pay a little bit more than the general taxation of Mount Vernon. That way, our site will have a little bit extra, and that creates this win-win opportunity. It puts a little more in the bucket for them on their side of the ledger, so to speak. But it is putting their property at risk. That's the exchange. They have to burden their property with this extra millage. So,
Caleb, can you, if I may,
Sure.
Mr. Chair, just throw in there. This is also important because can you explain what this does using these tools? What this does to the cost of homes then in that development?
Sure, of course. So you can imagine that a site with no public finance support might have a different way of paying for these costs. If this same property were to proceed, but there wasn't public finance support, what would happen is this $3.5 million would get put into the lots, so that every single lot that gets sold is that much more expensive. So it starts to price the lots higher if you don't use these types of tools that are borrowing from the future. Debt financing of public assets like sewer and roads, very common, very normal, right? But if you're a private developer and you can't access long-term, then you've got to put it in the lots. And that makes the lots more expensive. And what it does actually is bring quality down just a little bit, because instead of it being $10,000 a lot for infrastructure, it might be $50,000 a lot for infrastructure. And where is the builder and the land developer going to get that? They're just going to get it from the lot, which is going to price it higher, and you'll get a little less quality out of the total package because so much of it is going to be going up front into infrastructure. So it's this shift. It's this shift between value and infrastructure. So the developer borrows from the future, just like the city can, but the trick here, the best part about this is it's not your overall credit. It's really you're maximizing the developer's opportunity to come to the site themselves. I do think that overall this strategy is a very good strategy for a community like Mount Vernon, because what it will do is it will encourage new development to pay for new development. And that way it'll preserve existing community, existing residents, existing development from the burden of having to kick in for the new neighbors. Right. That's a pretty positive overall policy, and that's a lot of what's behind here. Is that helpful, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Let me just make sure I get this
Yes, of
straight.
course. Mhm.
You can pay me now or you can pay me later.
Bingo. Yeah.
And so, but up front, the developer's going to pay that and eventually get his money back over time. Is that right?
So in this case, the developer will, what they're going to do is they're going to get a borrowing. They're actually going to borrow from the world to put this $3.5 million in. But if we didn't have the TIF and the NCA, the developer would have to pay for it themselves, and they'd get it out of the lots. They'd say, oh, every blank here is $50,000 now. And what that does is it makes it really hard for them to attract a builder to come in, because the builder's got this base cost that's so much higher, 5 times higher than it would be if you can kick it off to the future.
So the NCA as an entity, which is separate from the city, will purchase bonds in order to pay for this.
Correct. So the NCA accesses, they're the ones that access the market. This is not a city authorized bond in that respect.
Did you have a comment, sir?
Well, they don't issue, they contract with someone else to issue the bond. In this case, it's the Columbus, or,
It's always an option or an opportunity.
Yeah.
The community authority has its own bond issuing power.
and so that and we're working with somebody else to actually do it, so that we don't have to do the legal,
So that they don't have to do it. Yeah.
the documentation and things like that.
Thank you for keeping me straight on my terminology.
Sorry. Little
No, it's
So,
very
one
important.
question, I know, so the risk maybe would be if the development doesn't develop all the lots. I mean, if they stop short or economy does whatever and they can't follow through, is that a risk?
Yes, sir. That's correct. So
Yeah.
in a site like this,
But we're not gonna be held liable.
you're
for
not
that.
bearing that risk. In fact, these bondholders who are investing in this site with their money, they're actually bearing that risk, and they charge an interest rate for that.
Right.
The developer is putting this ground on the hook. So they can't walk away and get away scot. Their ground gets tied up.
I think that's important.
And that is important, because what it does is it puts you all in a bit of a driver's seat in the event of there's a workout or a problem later. It is going to remain in your town, and we'll want Mount Vernon to have a say in how to resolve a site if it goes bad.
Yeah.
Other questions, council? Ms. Woods, I see the wheels turning.
I go to lots of these meetings, so, yeah.
All righty. Thank you.
Sure, of course.
Again, this is not on the docket tonight, but when it comes next meeting, we're going to need to go to a third reading. So make sure
I
we
know.
ask our questions.
Is Kimball Carey still there? Is he gone?
Oh, Kimball's still around, although Kimball has retired, but he wrote the book, right? He wrote the book on school law
No
and
longer
all those
does.
good things. So he's still
He's a good friend
around.
of mine, so
Yeah, nice
I
fella.
haven't talked to him. All right. We're going to adjourn the Land Use and Development Committee number 1. We're going to go to Committee number 2 for and use of development for Chapter 149 Bambi management.
I believe that's deer.
Oh, deer management.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question, and this is on page 23 of our agenda. I think the agenda this evening says that this is up for its second reading?
No, that's been
No.
corrected. It's third reading.
Okay, I'm sorry. I must have printed the old version. All right.
No,
No.
we wrote it in.
Okay. This is
You're correct.
okay, so this is up for its third reading tonight, council. I think several of us talked about this this looks like a first step to me. It seems it's kind of restrictive from the requirement of the significant liability waiver, or excuse me, carrying liability coverage, and 500 feet is quite a distance. Talks about, thoughts on that? Council, it is up for a third reading tonight. And as was pointed out, it is a first step, so maybe it's good that it's being very cautious and conservative, and if we find out that no deer are shot during the hunting season, maybe we're going to need to be a little less, loosen up the regulations a little bit. But questions or comments on that?
How similar is this to the language they're using in Gambier?
Mr. Warren, do we have any?
Similar, except much more restrictive.
Can
So
you
this is more
articulate
restrictive
that?
than Gambier.
This is more restrict. So in the same programmatic way of the seasons overlapping and it being an archery only system, and basically we took the same program that ODNR recommends throughout the entire state, and then we added layers of protection that ODNR said, I don't know that hunters are going to like that. And we said, I think that this is probably, if we want to, because this was initiated by citizens and a former council member. And we said, knowing that we have had this conversation in the past, we feel that it's probably best that we added some initial safety requirements, like the liability, or the liability insurance, like that 500 feet restriction. And there are some other things that aren't listed in here that we are going to add in an administrative code. Like, for instance, we talked about requiring a target, help me out here.
Qualification.
Yeah, a qualification course, working with ODNR at the county. Just basically bringing folks in and making sure that, proving that they can shoot a bow. Okay.
A skills test, if you will.
Yeah. And then on top of that, part of the registration fee that they would have to pay to the city, a portion of that would be designated to meat donation. So it would basically be if you're a trophy hunter and you're coming in, and the mayor can talk about this a lot more eloquently than I can, but basically if you want to donate the meat back to, food shelter or anything like that, a portion of what we will take in will be designated for that to help cover those costs as well. So it's just we understand that there's going to be community reluctance, but also we've looked at the public safety side of things, and the concerns versus the actual numbers of instances of issues throughout the state, they don't match up. The concern outweighs the real, issues. So,
Can I ask, can you give some examples? So, no activity shall occur within 500 feet of an inhabited dwelling, building, or public roadway. Can you give some examples of what areas that
Where
includes
would that
then?
include?
I can't tell you where that is. That's very restrictive, but 500 feet is from here to about Vine Street.
I mean,
City Hall to Vine
So
Street.
you're-
I mean,
So it's
measuring
quite a
and-
bit, quite a
Measuring
distance.
handicapped people can't quite grasp that. So and questions I've gotten is, well, then where would this be? I don't know, because I don't know what 500 feet from a
And,
house
well,
looks
so-
like in the city of
well,
Mount Vernon.
well,
There could be there are a couple of rural residential areas
Yeah.
in the city
You're-
that would qualify.
you're going to, and I think everybody immediately thinks when they think of the city of Mount Vernon. They think, all right, so we're allowing somebody to come down and take out Rambo-style Bambi on public square. No. Mount Vernon has a lot of very diverse land. I mean, there's 10 square miles here. And a lot of the outlying areas have a lot of that rural residential. And I think the idea is to show that there are opportunities to use that. And as there are no instances, or God willing, there are no instances of any sort of, arrows in the sides of whatever, or an animal being hurt or anything, then, which we've seen across the state, there are no instances of that. An animal that shouldn't be hurt, shall we say?
Because I'm getting
yeah.
I'm getting questions like, I know deer bed down at night and blah, blah, blah. I'm
Sure.
gonna give you an example because I know where they sleep behind the Nazarene Church on Coshocton Road.
Right.
People will call and say, I know they bed down here. Are they gonna be able to hunt there?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Are they gonna shoot my dog?
Yeah,
they're-
I have gotten a couple of those too.
But Mrs. Sevo, you're looking at 20, 30 yards. If you can't tell the difference between a dog and a deer,
But
then
it's a Great Dane.
you're really, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
We
then-
we recommend
don't put antlers on
that
'em,
citizens not put Christmas decorations on their Great Danes.
That would be fun.
During bow
recommend that, yeah. So it, ODNR collects this information, and we had a 10-person meeting in here where we looked at all of these instances, and they've had a collective 400 years of data, and I hate when they do that and compile all these years. It's impressive that they've done that, with Ohio being 200 plus years old, but they've got all of these years of these programs in cities much more dense and much more urban than, you can do this in the entirety of the city of Columbus. I think Officer Levering said that last time. And they've had a couple instances over the course of 40
I can't
plus
remember
years
if it was
of,
one or if it was two.
one or two of an animal being targeted, and they even think that was, when I say targeted, I think that was intentional, and that was unfortunately not an accident, So,
And I hate to even ask this because it makes me sound very crass, and I don't mean it that way, but they've obviously got to get a signed waiver of liability for us. So, God forbid, should something happen and Fido gets taken out, that liability is not on the city.
Yeah,
Is that
no,
correct?
no.
I hate to say we're protecting
no,
the city, but that's
yeah.
what we said
Well, no,
before,
we,
so.
we have to.
Okay.
That's our job in here, is to protect the city. Yeah, but no, and that's so another thing that comes with all of these safety measures is we're looking at. We want to do a year to make sure that we have had no instances reported in Gambier or in Apple Valley. Ohio or Knox County is I think the third highest harvesting county in Ohio. We're its county seat. There are communities in the county that are already doing this, and we just feel like with this being the restricted, we understand the concern, but again, like I said, I think the concerns outweigh the data when it comes to, actual instances of there being issues. So it's been asked, this is now, admittedly, he's a hunter, but this was not something that, the mayor and I just thought up and said, this sounds cool, let's do it. This has been brought up by citizens and by your, former colleague, Mr. Miller, who worked with ODNR for, I think, 30-some
More than
years?
30 years.
Yeah. So this is a program that I think has been tried and tested, and it's not something that's, just coming out of nowhere.
And
no.
Council, you may recall, last year, we had a property owner had to come before, I think it was municipal planning. He built too high of a fence because he was so desperate to protect his property. And now he did it all out of order in the wrong way, but, I think it's fairly self-evident that we have plenty of deer.
And, people have kind of chuckled at the phrase, deer management, but it truly is. We have Lyme disease on the increase. We have people that are, not caring about compliance issues, just build their fences. We have crash data on vehicles hitting deer. So this is truly a management, and that's why ODNR encourages you to call it a true deer management. It's not we're not on safari, right? It is truly a deer management program when you're in a municipality.
Okay,
like ours.
final question.
Yeah.
So if the hunting will basically occur outside, not outside the city, but on the edges of the city, fringe of the city, How is that doing anything for the population in the city?
Well, Mrs. Woods, I'll tell you that we would like to not include the 500 feet. And if you'd like to amend it and take out the 500 feet, I think that would be the most effective thing to
The
do.
500 feet was what I got the most phone calls about. Like,
I mean,
that's
yeah,
not far enough.
that is 167
But that's
yards.
that's not far enough.
They were concerned, what does that mean? Where will they be able to hunt? And we haven't been able to answer that question here.
Well, I
So-
think what if people are continuing to ask, the mayor says, so sitting in City Hall, basically to Vine Street. And that eliminates, if you're,
It's one and 2/3 of a football field.
Archers are not.
An
gonna
archery
take-
cannot.
Archer's
An
not
archer
gonna take a
cannot shoot
100-yard
that.
shot.
No, they won't hit.
let
it.
alone a 500.
It's 20 yards. Really.
20 to 60.
Sometimes you can get up to 60, but you
gotta be really good.
really skillful.
I think the 500-yard feet, or the 500 feet, is more than like they're saying, is more than than an archer's even going to take that shot. So it's above and beyond the reality of a shot.
It's very conservative, in other words. You're
Yeah.
erring on the side of caution.
Yeah.
I don't think they're worried about the length of the shot. They're worried about people hunting in the wrong places based on that.
Yeah.
All right.
I think
gotta
it's
get
worth,
permission.
I think it's
You
worth
have
a
to get
shot this
permission.
year.
But I do, to your point, I think when you're talking about, they have to ask, if the question is, well, if 500 feet, is that going to do anything for management? No, it's not going to make that much of a dent. You're right. That is, but if you're concerned about safety and you want to try it out, then
Okay.
500 feet.
So if we wanted to amend it, do we have enough people to amend it here tonight?
Yeah. Yes.
If we wanted to amend it to like 100 or 100 yards, 300 feet? So, I mean,
I
I'm
wish
hearing
we
us
had, we
say,
don't have our wildlife officer, or Mr. Miller here this evening to talk about what's reasonable. Was there any testimony in the
did
meeting?
they
that would
recommend
make
the
it-
500 feet? Is
They
that-
they recommended we remove. I am not recommending this. This is a comment that was made, that there are people that take their shots from playground equipment.
Yeah.
I think we put it in as it is for a year, and then we come back and monitor it. I think 500 feet's an awful long way.
It is a very long.
And I
way.
think maybe look at it for a year and then come back and say, hey, we're not doing any good here with 500 feet.
Well,
What
Let's
I
see-
do,
The other question I have is how much does it cost to get $100,000 personal injury and property damage liability?
that would typically come with, if you
Your
own a home.
homeowner's policy.
Yeah,
You're gonna have that.
you're gonna have that.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's some places that have this kind of legislation
With
that allow
no
hunting
distance.
on city property?
Yes.
Okay.
So
wanted to
this is,
clarify
and I do want to point that out just for everyone's use. This excludes city property and is only private property within the city. So obviously you couldn't use a park, but if there were, if you were on a personal playground equipment, you got one of those like, wooden fortresses in your backyard and you're propped up there. And most, I believe, Rob, if you correct me on this, most of them do not have the distance requirement, or they have a very limited distance requirement.
So
So-
most of the urban hunting, urban deer management programs have no distance. So if
That's
it,
our
you're,
understanding.
That's what we were told, yes.
Yeah.
so talking about,
Again,
Shooting
this
it off
is
your back deck.
exceptionally restrictive, and my only concern, just from a data perspective, would be that, like Mr. President Hawkins has said, is if we went with 1 year with this very restrictive code in here, that we would kind of handicap our own data. Say, well, it was, an abysmal failure. Well, of course it was. Where are you supposed to even do it?
I don't believe we need to have that kind of a distance personally. I think we should amend that, but,
Okay, well, you can do that.
okay.
okay, I'm over my time, council, but that is coming up for third reading, so if we're gonna think about how we're gonna amend that, we need to do that at the break.
We're getting into Mrs. Evol's checkbook, so we need to, we're going to move now to the Finance and Budget Committee with Ohio Online Checkbook. Mrs. Evolt.
Thank you. I guess we're gonna talk to Tanner about the checkbook
Yes,
online?
so unfortunately, didn't have a representative from the Ohio Treasurer's Office here to join us, but I worked with Miss Brooke Billman from the State Treasurer's Office. Yeah, it's in here somewhere. And I have mislaid my documents here. One second here. Great. It's all mixed up. Too many pages. Problem with paper. But we are going to be, here it is. Okay. We're going to be discussing the Ohio Online Checkbook. If you remember, this has been around for a little over, I believe, 10 years now. So has everyone heard of the Ohio Online Checkbook? I'm sure Tammy maybe have given you nightmares at some point. Yep. Okay. So just a rundown. So the Ohio Online Checkbook, or ohiocheckbook.gov, is a public online resource that allows Ohioans to explore how state and local governments spend taxpayer dollars, offering transaction level data, budgets, revenue sources, contracts, and employee salaries. It combines data from 2 previous separate tools, so ohiocheckbook.com, and that launched back in 2014 by the Treasurer's Office to report data spending or detailed spending, and the Ohio Interactive Budget, which was introduced in 2016 by the Office of Budget and Management to display revenue and budget information. So these were merged back in 2019 to form today's comprehensive platform, and the mayor has an image of the Ohio checkbook up there. So it's very interactive. It also, I do want to inform you that it's as interactive as the data that we supply it. So if we want to give it live information of our spending weekly, then that's what will be included. If we give it quarterly updates of our, supplemental appropriations and adjusted appropriations and budget appropriations and whatnot, that's what it will include. And that's what we're recommending. So development and impact, the Ohio Checkbook debuted in 2014 under Josh Mandel's leadership, offering what they referred to as unprecedented transparency into state expenditures and enabling citizens to become citizen watchdogs. So the Ohio Checkbook stands out as a top-tier model of transparency, delivering real-time searchable financial data. It empowers Ohioans with direct insight into public spending, a key step toward accountability and informed civic engagement. So I assumed some questions here, 5 questions that would typically be asked about this kind of stuff. How secure is the Ohio Online Checkbook, and could sensitive information be exposed? The Ohio Online Checkbook only displays public record information as defined by Ohio law. Sensitive data such as bank account numbers, employee social security numbers, or confidential legal matters, that stuff is not uploaded. The Ohio Treasurer's Office uses secure data transfer methods, and all information is vetted to ensure it meets public records compliance before it's posted. So question number 2, how much staff time will be required to maintain and update the data? So that's an internal question, right? So if I'm looking over at these 2 guys sitting over there, and they're sweating, thinking, what are you doing to us, and why did you do this? All right. So if the city uses the auditor's state uniform accounting network, another compatible system, which we use a mix of both of those things, I believe. I know that our Civica system can be compatible with that UAN. It can be automated with minimal staff involvement, basically, which is why we don't want to do the very, we'll just say live updates, because I think we're a little handicapped with the technology. But as far as quarterly updates,
sounds good.
yeah, quarterly with the budgeted, any sort of supplemental or adjusted anything, we should be able to meet that. The initial setup may require coordination with the Treasurer's Office and our finance staff, obviously, but ongoing maintenance is generally limited to verifying data and addressing any anomalies. That's mostly participating municipalities only report a few hours of staff time per year after its initial launch. So question number 3, will publishing our financial data lead to more public complaints or misunderstandings? Yes. All right. So while transparency, this is a good problem to have. While transparency may prompt more questions from residents, it also builds trust by showing exactly how tax dollars are spent. The searchable interface makes it easy for citizens to find answers themselves without filing formal public records requests, which can reduce staff workload in the long run. And the treasurer's office can also provide training to help respond to inquiries as well. So as long as they have that accessibility, it limits that, assumption that there's, something behind the veil, right? What are the costs to participate in the Ohio Online Checkbook? There is no direct cost for municipalities to join. The Ohio Treasurer's Office provides the platform, hosting, and technician support at no charge. Any costs would be related to internal staff time for setup and occasional data checks, not to the treasurer's office itself. So as much time that we put into it, that's the sunk cost in it. Can the city remove or correct inaccurate data once it's published? Yes. So if we publish something and we find, oh, that's totally wrong, I mistransposed a 1 there, should have been a 5, whatever. The treasurer's office has procedures for correcting or updating records if errors are identified. Since data is pulled directly from the city's accounting records, any corrections begin with the city's own system, which syncs to the Ohio checkbook during the scheduled update. So, and it's not a system where you can just, sneak in and change it either. It's, a very, well-managed upgrade or system fix. Here's another thing that has been talked about, more political. Is there a chance that this program could be discontinued by a new state treasurer? Yeah. While there is currently no indication that the Ohio Online Checkbook is under threat, theoretically, any program managed by the state treasurer could be altered or discontinued by a new administration, including a newly elected treasurer. That said, there are important factors that support its continuity and public longevity, and that includes strong bipartisan and interagency support. So we have, several treasurers that have supported it. We have several state offices, including OBM and the governor's office and the General Assembly, that supported it. Such cross-agency cooperation suggested a deeper institutional commitment that extends beyond any single office holder. The checkbook is a flagship transparency initiative. Ohio received a national #1 ranking in financial transparency in 2015 and 2016, largely thanks to this platform. So discontinuing it would attract significant public and media scrutiny, potentially making it politically costly for future officials to roll it back. And then finally, hundreds of local entities, including cities and townships and universities and local schools, already participate in submitting financial data, and this creates broad constituency vested in its continuation. So, of course, while nothing is completely immune from a political shift, the Ohio Online Checkbook appears very well rooted in financial institution frameworks, public expectations, and interagency collaboration. So that includes advocating for state legislation to formalize the program and cultivating public awareness and support to make discontinuation politically unappealing. So we would encourage council to support this legislation to help us get into the program to encourage us to get into the program, and we would encourage any candidates for state treasurer, as that will be coming up soon, to continue supporting the program. So.
Well, I'm all for transparency, but have you talked to other cities who have done it as far as the amount of staff time it takes in order to implement it?
I have personally, and they have mixed opinions of it, but not because of the staff time. Their mixed opinions come from the amount of public scrutiny that they get from once they post their information online. And I frankly, and I'll just go ahead and tell you, people don't understand how public finance works, and I know that that will come as a shock to everybody in this room, but there's nothing a little sunshine and transparency can't solve. So yeah, it's gonna, when you roll it out, and you publish these numbers to the individuals that want to see it, you know, they're gonna say, well, what's this number? What's this number do? And there will probably be, you know, a few phone calls questioning this, and okay, that's part of the job. But I think that it gives the city of Mount Vernon an opportunity to, you know, show some transparency as growth and, you know, investment moves forward on a platform that's managed by someone else that we simply just have to sync up to and add our data to, when a lot of municipalities and other jurisdictions are doing the same thing. So,
Anything else?
Dan, Dave, do you feel good about this?
yeah, Josh Mandel started this. I think he was the first state treasurer. That was his idea.
You go up to the microphone. I can't hear you.
Josh Mandel was that was his idea when he was running for treasurer back. It was at least 10 years ago, maybe more, and then he brought it to light, and then it's just continued on through several other treasurers. So yeah, it's a good thing, and doesn't hurt to have. It's public information anyway, and it's just given another level of information to more people. So. Yeah.
It seems like something the public could get without going through the formality of a public records request.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could see it more openly.
As far as workload, I think us doing this will actually decrease workload if right now, if there's a public records request, we have to work with either, you know, the treasurer's office or the auditor's office or departments. Whereas if we all combined, you know, our necessary documents and uploaded it to the Ohio checkbook, we would be able to tell a requester, you can find this information at the Ohio checkbook, or we could link them to that, or they could just know that and look at the Ohio checkbook. And if they needed to look any further, then they could make a public records request.
Do you want to say anything, Dan?
I don't think it'll take too much effort on the part of our office to sync up some of this stuff, and I think the general purpose behind it is a good one of letting the people of Mount Vernon get to see a little bit more of how their government works and what we spend our money on, and how the pies all fit together in our, what is it, 700, 800 lines that we had across our budget. So I think it'll be a good thing.
Well, good. Sounds
You're
good.
cutting into your own time.
Well,
You're
we
ready to
better
move on.
close this up then.
Okay, we're going to adjourn that Finance and Budget Committee. Going to move on to the next one, which is water meters, HCO overhaul project.
All right.
All right.
Well, we're going to look to Tanner again for some direction.
Okay, so first off, I talked a lot last time, which is rare for me, I know. Yeah, he said with dripping sarcasm. Looking at Cheryl feverishly writing over it. All right. Do you have any questions about I haven't received any questions, but do you have any questions from the presentation?
I guess not so much a question as a comment. So one of the things that was pointed out last time, the schedule of when meters had been replaced.
Yes.
And I asked, well, those newer meters, was there a way to know, you know, were they tracking in the same percentage as far as minimum users? And it said it probably wasn't. I mean, I guess when I think back about that, you know who those people are. You keep track of what meters you've replaced because you have that list of when they were replaced. So I'm not quite sure how you couldn't go to look and see. But, okay. Before, and I went back and listened to the Utilities Commission meeting. And it was stated, and I wish I could think of the word that was used, you know, sort of like we're supposing that these meters are bad, that are that old. Would it not be more telling to get like 100 meters and dual meters some of these older things just to see if those things are misreading before spending $2 million?
So I think the best person to answer that question would be the person that is in charge of them.
Evening, council.
Good evening.
Yeah, if we revert back to this
Yeah.
sheet here, industrial standard is 10 to 15 years on a meter. After that, they need replaced. So that's why we chose the 15-year and older, because we're way past industrial standards.
So
These are a
yeah,
mechanical operating meter, so as time goes by, they wear out.
right. So then the ones that are 15 or newer, right? Those so the bottom here, and I just this
Yeah.
bottom group here that was white on my copy. We assume that those are all working very well.
They would still be under your 15 years, so they would be in range.
Okay. But have we tested any of those? I'm just
Now, you
asking.
wouldn't say there'd be a few that are maybe off, but to test those meters,
Would not.
it's
Yeah.
not worthwhile.
Yeah. So anything that's 15 years or older, you're suggesting we need to.
We look, yeah,
get
if we're
those
gonna do this big meter replacement, go ahead, anything 15 and older, go ahead and do.
And at one point, we had talked about replacing anything that was, I think, 20.
Yeah,
And we thought, well, if we're in all these, meter wells out here looking at, because here's what we don't want to do. We don't want to do this massive H2 overhaul project. And 10 years from now, we're kind of in the same boat that we're in. And there's a big, obviously it wouldn't be as big, but there's a big chunk of these old meters. And there's a new safety service director, and there's a new mayor, and there's a new utilities director, and an all-new council, and well, Janice will still be here. But there's an all new administration, right? And they're sitting here, they're looking at the same kind of data, and they're going, well, why would they not have just replaced all the ones that were out of their lifespan, right? Because that's and that's essentially why we ticked it back to the 15.
in the 7, we talked with Arcadis over this, our engineer, and they're, well, why don't you do a side-by-side? And once they hear it's 26 and older as a majority of these meters, it's not worth the time to do that.
So, and I'm sorry, so like, there were some years we did over 600, over 700. I'm just wondering, would it not be worth doing 1,000 a year for the next 4 years to get it done, as opposed to the way it's proposed to be financed here?
Kind of the situation with that, we're losing revenue every month that goes by on these meters that aren't registering. So
And
each,
that takes me back to the dual testing. We're assuming these things aren't reading right.
it's pretty much a given. It's, yeah.
But we can't prove that with the newer ones, because nobody can go back and see if there was an increase in, once you put these newer meters on, that
Well,
you increase
different
what you
system.
got.
We're dealing with two different systems. We were dealing with the census system, and then we're dealing with our billing software. So you would have to get those two to
Oh,
compare.
Okay, but you put in 77 this year, right? Is that what I'm reading?
So far this year, yes.
Okay. So when those were put in, did you see an increase when you put those in?
So I would go ahead and jump in and just say, like with the case study that we presented, that is a new census meter, and you saw that go from an old, 20-plus year.
A lot of the ones we're replacing, there could be a mechanical malfunction. They're not necessarily aged out. They're not working. Either the reader, something happened with the reader, it's not communicating. That's the reason it got changed out.
But even with the case study that we included in the packet, that one was an aged meter that was replaced, a commercial meter, but that was an aged commercial meter, and you saw it replaced out, and you saw an increase of, I think, a $1,500. Now again, that's a commercial meter. You're not going to see that on every meter. And I also don't want to say, so these meters, this was another question that was asked before, is there a chance that they could ever underread? No, because
These are positive displacement meters. The water,
can
they
only
will
go
not
through one
register
way.
any water.
They're not coming back through, right?
Yeah.
So there's a situation out there where you're only going to see, as time goes on, these things deteriorate in the way that they are picking up or they're reading as water comes through, which is why you have a 500 million gallon water loss situation. And we can't explain, we don't have, massive gaps in our system we've CCTV'd all of our lines. We don't have, these massive holes in the lines anywhere.
We've had leak detection companies come in. It was prior to me coming here, but Kenny had brought them in, and they did not find anything
And
major.
that's what I mean by the CCTV, is where we've come in and kind of cammed our lines. And there is a massive amount of water at over 50.2% water loss, and there's got to be an answer for it. So when it's a valid question to go, why don't we, just put these together, but at scale, when there's, almost 2,000 of them that are over twice the life expectancy. When you talk to industrial, professionals in this, they already tell you, I can tell you what your problem is these things aren't picking up, these things aren't reading. So they come in and they say, if you replace, they pitch themselves when you talk about a third party coming in and replacing all these, because that's another part of this package, right? Is wholesale purchasing all these meters, but also having a third party come in and replace 3,500 of them. They pitch themselves by saying this will pay for itself. The county did this process probably 5-6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They were at around a 60% water loss. They were at a 60% there it is again. They were at a 60% water loss, and it dropped down to a 20%. And they were able to make that up. And that's not just, I say water loss, and you think, okay, well, now we know where that water is, but that's the revenue coming back in too. So not only are we, the important part of that water loss going down is we're billing for that water. And I know that that's concerned a bunch of people. It says, oh, my bill's going to go up. Well, if you're a heavy user, yes, maybe, because you've been getting discounted water for X amount of time because your meter's not picking it up.
And I think that dual testing would have gone a long way with consumers too, to say, here's examples of why we see we're losing water, where now I think their bills are going to go up and they're like, maybe it wasn't my meter and you can't tell me it was my meter.
Just so I'm clear, a few years ago, we spent quite a bit of money putting in electronic signals. So the meter can be read from here in town as opposed to going out there and reading each meter individually.
Correct.
That particular apparatus is still functioning, and we won't have to change that one as we change the meters. Is that money we spent 2 or 3 years ago still viable?
Yes.
And that's
That's the question I'm getting.
Yeah.
Hey, we just did this.
Yeah.
this
And-
one right here.
Yeah.
Your smart points. Those are the years you can see in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 was the years that we would have put those in to create the radio read system.
So we had all these people go out and change all these meters, and people are aware of that. And so they're confusing that with changing the meter itself.
Yes.
Yes.
So we need to make sure it's clear that we're not duplicating something we did 3 years ago.
Yeah. So
But when you replace so many, they're all going to go bad at the same time. Where if you do intervals, your cost is going to be huge again.
well, and that's why I think it's important to note that we budget every year. We do budget for replacements, and you can see throughout this schedule here that we are still replacing them as we go. But like we pointed out in that presentation, at the rate that we're going, we are never going to replace, by the time that we come back around, and even with the extended life of the new census meter, it's gone from about 15 to 20 now. Even with that extended life, we're never going to replace, especially with the growth that we're experiencing, we're never going to replace all of those meters in a sustainable period. So we're going to have to be, one, more intentional on doing it, but the whole purpose of doing this, and like Councilwoman Woods has said, why don't we do it staggered over 4 years? Well, because we've been missing millions, potentially millions of dollars in revenue, and I don't think, as an administration, I don't think we want to continue that and drag it out even further. And if we don't invest in it now, and we don't become more intentional about paying attention to these meters, then we're going to see that revenue leave, especially as we have major capital costs coming. And on the back end of that, as we look at rates, if you're going in with bad data, you can't set rates at the appropriate rate that they need to be.
The next question is, where's the 2 million come from?
So that we have an answer to, because Janice caught me out back, and she was like, "Don't you touch that rainy day fund."
You mean you finally listened?
So I did what I wasn't good at, and I listened. And right now, council, you will have two, as there are two pieces of legislation, you will see 2 amendments laying before you. And I will try to find them. The first amendment will be for the resolution. It is the shorter one. It is the front and back. Should have a front and back. Yep.
Yep.
And right there, it is wiping out all references to the reserve balance account, AKA the rainy day fund. And what it does do is it changes a revenue line. So that 101, 3600, if you look at section 1, the edited section, says 101, 3600, 54452 rent. That is a revenue line. So why are we changing rent? It's because we have probably a dozen rent lines throughout our revenue lines. This one's kind of a dead-end revenue line. Not a lot of, maybe nothing coming in. Dan can speak more to that. Don't really pay attention to those side of things. It's more the auditor's duty. But we found a revenue line that we could, because per manuscript debt, we had to check some boxes. Right now, the reserve balance account, we didn't have to do all of this. But because we're, frankly, doing what Janice told me to do, we had to kind of make some changes here. And we changed the name of this to infrastructure improvements to more, as it says, more accurately describe the monies contained within the line. In section 2, we're going to authorize a supplemental appropriation to account, this new account, from the Park National Investment Fund. Now, it's still a Park National Investment Fund, so the reserve balance account has been separated into that Park National Investment Fund as well. However, we had that other fund, if you remember, if you still have your packet, I think that was one of those, there were 3 funds that we identified, right? There was the reserve balance, there was another management account, and then there was the STAR account that had about $6 million in it. But we were concerned that we would start overlapping with the funds that we would need for municipal facilities. And at some point, the auditor has to send a letter to the law director per manuscript debt, has to send a letter to the law director and to the mayor saying that we will not need this money for the next 6 months. Now, I believe that that will be a thing with that STAR account. I don't believe that we would need that money for the next 6 months, up to $2 million. However, with all the projects going on with the municipal facilities, I don't want to risk it. This is simply not worth the risk, especially when, after talking with the auditor and the treasurer, we have the $24 million Park National Fund sitting there, and for the sake of Tammy and her head not exploding, we decided to refer to these as monies, accounts, and funds. Okay, so there are monies sitting in an account at PNC, and we're establishing a fund here so we can certify how to pay for these things, okay? We are going to utilize this account, this wealth management account over at PNC, or no, I'm sorry, at Park National, to utilize a fund that the city has established, which would be this infrastructure improvements. And then the supplemental appropriations are listed there in section 4 of that. And those are the expenditures. We all following along here? This will make you go cross-eyed real quick. All right. And then the other sections of this amendment eliminate all other references to the reserve balance account. The other piece of legislation that we have amended, basically does the exact same thing by eliminating references to the reserve balance account and inputting the references to the fund 101-3600-54452 infrastructure improvements. This would be passed first, establishing that fund. And then we would pass the ordinance, which would allow us to issue those self-supporting utility revenue bonds. The amended ordinance. Yeah, the amended resolution and then the amended ordinance.
Just so for clarity, for Janice's sake.
For Janice's sake, yeah.
When we
Yeah.
get to the shorter resolution, which is a page
Yeah.
and a third, which ordinance or resolution are we referring this amendment to?
So that would be resolution 2025-75.
I don't like amendments. Can we just do a new resolution?
Well, you can just offer this, the amendments included on this page, so you don't have to read it.
Yeah, you don't have to read all of that.
You can say the resolution that's presented to us tonight. Okay, and the second
remove to
amendment is what?
The second amendment would be that resolution,
Ordinance.
ordinance 2025-24.
Question. Mr. Sawyers, you were, as written before the amendment, we were, essentially the city was going to pay interest back to the reserve balance account.
Yep.
And now if we amend this, then the city's going to pay interest to bondholders, just other private bonds other than
We will
the city?
It's still the same exact process. It will just be going into this wealth management account.
Yeah, that's kind of the beauty of the manuscript debt idea in general, is because we're not going to lose any potential interest revenue that we might have had if the monies had just simply been parked, whether at Park or Stars or any of our potential investment accounts.
Right.
And it locks us in at a decent rate when, I mean, as David might tell you, I mean, there's talk of interest rates are historically high right now. They're starting to dip a little bit, but this will lock in a decent rate for the term of this arrangement.
And this is a 3-year term, right?
Yes.
So, council, I think this just makes total sense that we do this. If we're losing potentially millions, and the data seems to indicate that, I think this is really not fair to the residents if we don't do this, because we will essentially pay ourselves back with interest. And so what I think we need to make sure that we do, the question Janice had a little bit earlier, I think was important. So if we replace 4,000 meters and then in 15 years, do we have to do 4,000 again or whatever, then we need to have money being set aside to take care of that. So if the money that that comes back in that we pay ourselves, or the interest, we should be putting that in an account to make these, because we're all going to be going in 15 years, right? I mean, probably most of us won't be sitting. Well, I mean, we won't be sitting in these chairs maybe in 15 years. It's probable that that's not going to happen. So, but we don't want to. Those people scratching their head, why didn't they do something to put money to cover this? Now. So, I think this makes total sense to do what we're talking about here, and then to make sure we have funds set aside to cover having to change these again in 15 years. It just makes sense to me.
Well, and we know it's coming beyond a shadow of a doubt if their mechanical limit is 15 to 20 years, too.
Correct.
So, there is absolutely no excuse for us to leave this for the next generation to deal with.
Right. One of my other questions then, and Aaron, you'd have to answer this. So these 12 that are pre-1987, we didn't even have Wi-Fi back then. Are those actually being read by these data points?
We're going to get 400 smart points,
Okay.
and that'll be for those.
Okay,
Those
okay.
are, yeah, they're not.
But we're gonna
capable.
replace these 12 that are pre-87, right?
Yeah.
So they're not, they
They're
wouldn't be able
first
to
on.
read anything nowadays, right?
No, they would be manual.
Right, okay.
You'd
that's-
have to go pop the lid and.
And I don't
look
know
in
what
there.
year, how far back, but I mean, you know, even maybe close to 2000, it might be struggling for those to
Yeah,
even read.
that's why, yeah, in the
Okay.
whole package, there's 400 smart points.
I mean,
in
I
there
just
that-
think this makes sense. I mean, I think we are gonna make money out of this if, or, and that's our residents' money. It just makes sense that we do this.
I do appreciate when the city sends me a letter saying we're using too much water. That's because my grandkids are out playing with a water hose and my wife's watering the flowers. But at least I know.
Yes.
I get a letter.
I agree. I
get
got
a
one of
letter from the
those.
city saying you're using more water than we anticipated. And that way I know it's not a leak in the house. I can justify why that water is being used.
And with these newer meters, we'll be able to track that even better with a lower amount used. It'll set an alarm off quicker, so.
Yeah.
So to clarify, you keep saying we're setting up a new fund, but it's not a new fund on the books. It's all still happening in the general fund.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Well,
a new
no,
line.
a new line,
No,
yeah.
we're renaming a line
Yeah.
within the general fund.
Right.
We are not setting up a new,
No, yeah. If I have said we are setting up a new fund, that was,
we are renaming a
mistake,
line
yeah.
within the general fund.
yeah.
Okay, Mrs. Seabold, anything else?
No, that should be it, and we're closing at 7:15.
All right.
Right on time.
You're clear in your marching orders as far as the amendments. Okay, we're adjourning the Finance and Budget Committee. We're now in recess until 7:30 PM. We begin the legislative portion of the meeting.
This is the second thing.
Now 7:30 PM. Going to call the legislative portion of Mount Vernon City Council to order. First of all, for the audience, I'd like for you to introduce our new clerk of council, Zachary Sherman. And so he is replacing Todd, who's done this for a number of years, done an admirable job. So appreciate Zach stepping into that. He's in a learning process, so stick with him and stick with me as we go through this. Zach, please call the roll.
Mr. Ruckman,
Here?
Miss Keener, Mrs. Hager, Mrs. Siebel,
Here.
Mr. Severns,
Here.
Mr. Mahan,
Here.
Mrs. Woods.
Is there a motion to excuse the two council people who aren't here?
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded that Mrs. Keener and Mrs. Hager be excused. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. They are excused. The invocation this evening will be given by Councilman Ruckman. Please rise to the invocation and remain standing for the pledge.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather together this evening. We thank you for the community that we live in, the neighbors that we have, and just ask that you would please bless each and every one of us with wisdom and clarity over the decisions that we make this evening and the running of the city. We pray that you would please just continue to be with us, guide us, and protect us. Be with us in all that it is that we think, say, and do, and that ultimately we would glorify you through having this meeting this evening. In Christ's dear and precious name we pray these things. Amen.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, in your packet were the minutes from the July 28th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, I'd ask for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded, they be approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. They are approved. Mr. Sherman, any petitions or communications?
No.
And council, in your packet are the committee reports from 5 committee meetings from last time for your review. I see no liquor control licenses or proclamations, and I have no one's asked for speak on matters of city concern. So we'll move now into the legislative portion of the meeting. And council, in your in the packet before you is the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda before you? Not it. So it's approved by consensus. And we'll move now to resolutions for third reading. Mr. Sherman.
Resolution number 2025-75, a resolution authorizing and directing the city to purchase certain securities and for a supplemental appropriation to pay for the purchase.
Mr. Siebel.
Thank you. I move to adopt resolution number 2025-75, amended as presented to council in printed form.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to amend this resolution. Any discussion on the amendment? Mr. Sherman.
Mr. Ruckman,
Yes.
Mrs. Siebel,
Yes.
Mr. Severns,
Yes.
Mr. Mahan,
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
No.
I vote 5-1. The amendment is adopted.
4-1.
4 to
4-1.
4-1. 1, 2, 3.
So we so do we pass the res,
No,
or do we just the amendment?
We just acted on the amendment.
Amend it right now.
Okay, now it's back to Mrs. Siebel for this resolution as amended. Mrs. Siebel.
I move to adopt resolution number 2025-75 as amended.
Second?
Been moved and seconded for the adoption of this resolution as amended. Any discussion? Mrs. Siebel.
We had a committee meeting, and does anybody have any further questions for Mr. Sawyers?
Mr. Sherman.
Mr. Ruckman,
Yes.
Mrs. Siebel,
Yes.
Mr. Severns,
Yes.
Mr. Mahan,
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
No.
By a vote of 4-1, this resolution is adopted. Now we have no resolutions tonight for second reading. We have several for first reading. The first one is resolution number 2025-76. Mr. Sherman.
A resolution authorizing and directing the auditor of the city of Mount Vernon to make supplemental appropriations.
Mrs. Seabolt.
Thank you. I'm going to give this its first reading.
This resolution receives its first reading. Now I move to resolution number 2025-77. Mr. Sherman.
A resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to dispose of vehicles in the police department not needed for public use by the city of Mount Vernon and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Seabolt.
Thank you. I'm going to get, we have to give this its first reading too because we don't have enough.
Right.
So give this its first reading.
This
We'll
res-
keep our cars longer.
This resolution receives its first reading. Now I move to resolution number 2025-78. Mr. Sherman.
A resolution authorizing the city of Mount Vernon to participate in the Ohio Treasurer's online checkbook program.
Mrs. Seabolt.
Thank you. I'm going to give resolution 2025-78 its first reading.
This resolution receives its first reading. We now move to resolution number 2025-79. Mr. Sherman.
A resolution authorizing and directing the auditor of the city of Mount Vernon to rename the 230 fund, create lines within the renamed fund pursuant to ORC 5705.09F, make supplemental appropriations to the new fund, and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Seabolt.
I'm going to give resolution number 2025-79 its first reading.
This resolution receives its first reading. That concludes the resolutions for this evening. We now move to ordinances. The first one is an ordinance for third reading. Actually, we have two for third reading. The first one is ordinance number 2025-24. Mr. Sherman.
Authorizing the issuance of self-supporting utility revenue bonds in the amount of not to exceed $2 million for the purpose of acquiring and installing water meters and paying other costs of implementing the water and wastewater utilities H2 overhaul project, authorizing and approving related matters, and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Seabolt.
Thank you. I would like to amend ordinance number 2025-24, amended as presented to council in printed form.
Second.
And moved and seconded that this ordinance be amended. Any discussion on the amendment? Mr. Sherman.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes.
Mrs. Siebold.
Yes.
Mr. Severns.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan.
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
No.
I vote a 4-1. This amendment is adopted. Now we go back to this ordinance as amended. Mrs. Seabolt.
Thank you. I move to adopt ordinance number 2025-24 as amended.
Second.
Then moved and seconded for the adoption of this ordinance as amended. Any discussion? Mrs. Seabolt.
We also had a meeting on this tonight, and does anybody have any further questions or concerns over this?
I just want to know what you said to Tanner to scare him so much that changed the legislation.
The words could
Yeah.
be uttered in this room.
Okay.
You don't want me mad at you.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Sherman.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes.
Mrs. Siebold.
Yes.
Mr. Severns.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan.
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
No.
I vote a 4-1. This ordinance is adopted. Next, we move to the ordinance for third reading. It's corrected in your agenda from second reading to third reading. That's ordinance number 2025-25. Mr. Sherman.
An ordinance authorizing and creating Chapter 149 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Mount Vernon, white-tailed deer management within the City of Mount Vernon, Ohio, and modifying ordinances in conflict.
Mr. Mahan.
Thank you, sir. I move to adopt ordinance number 2025-25.
Second.
And moved and seconded for the adoption of this ordinance. Any discussion?
Council, I think we have had a committee meeting. I think it does bear some discussion and a possible amendment. We had a chance to do some Google searching, and 500 feet is an unreasonable bow and arrow shot. And it makes the legislation foolish to even adopt.
Councilman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Because we were offline, and I think it bears repeating. I think even the 300 that was suggested during the committee meeting may be unreasonable as well.
Yes.
So we don't want to adopt legislation that's foolish. We also, in my opinion, don't want to necessarily delay the legislation because we want the city to have time to put everything in place in time for the hunting season. Any thoughts on an amendment to the distance?
So, Robert's Rules of Order here, you motion to adopt.
I
and you got
motion
a
to
second.
adopt, and we are now in discussion.
So we would have to vote that down.
No. Is that under the rules, at any time before the vote is called for passage, you may move to amend.
Okay. I will move to amend ordinance 2025-25 to change the distance in 149.04 to 30 yards. Hunters understand yardage. They use range finders to determine how far a deer is away. This gentleman got up and spoke before we went into legislative session. I know enough about deer hunting and talked to deer hunters that if you can shoot a deer over 35, 40 yards, you're probably a very, very good shooter. And so I think if we do use 30 yards, that's about 90 feet. That makes sense. You know, we've talked about the number of deer coming into the city, and if we really want it to be managed, and if we want,
You need to
Did
do a
someone,
second.
did someone,
Did somebody second?
Is there a
Second.
Is there a second
Second?
to
Okay.
the amendment?
So if we do want to help control
Wait a
some of the
minute, I didn't do
population,
second.
yes, Jay seconded.
Okay, all right.
Yes, I'm
All
clear.
right, sorry.
Thank you.
So if we do want to, I said a lot before we got the second, I'm sorry. I'm not extremely passionate about this, but I think we have to make this realistic if we actually want to control some of the deer. I mean, 500 feet is just, it's ludicrous. So I recommend the 30 yards, and then we see how it goes, and if we decide we need to go under 30 yards in a year from now or whatever, we could do that, right? That's my opinion.
Any discussion on the amendment?
Council, we've heard testimony that some cities have 0. I think 500 is ludicrous, but maybe 30 yards is a reasonable place to start, and that makes this legislation an appropriate place to start rather than something that's just not reasonable at all. So I'm in favor of the amendment.
So can I get a clarifying question, make a clarifying question? So then it's 30 yards from any inhabited dwelling, okay. Just making
Yes.
sure that's what I'm hearing, okay.
But they still have to
With
get
permission.
permission.
Yeah,
I was going
with-
to say.
Yeah,
they
none of
still
the
have to
others,
get permission.
yeah, I'm not recommending any of the
From the
others.
owner.
Well,
Yeah.
not
right.
necessarily, because if they're on land, the owner of the land, yes.
Correct.
But they could be 30 yards from homes and be on somebody's land.
Any other discussion? We're now voting on the amendment. Mr. Sherman?
Mr. Ruckman,
Yes.
Mrs. Siebel,
Yes.
Mr. Severns,
Yes.
Mr. Mahan,
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
No.
By a vote of 4-1, the amendment is adopted. We're back now to Mr. Mahan for the ordinance as amended.
I've already moved to adopt. It's been seconded. Now we have it amended. So yes, I'm sorry. My apologies. I can't tell the players without a scorecard, folks. I move to adopt ordinance number 25-25 as amended.
Second, I'm sorry, that's me, I keep forgetting.
Been moved and
People
seconded.
absent, sorry.
That this ordinance be adopted as amended. Mr. Mahan?
Mr. Ruckman,
Yes.
Mrs. Siebel,
Yes.
Mr. Severns.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan,
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
No.
By a vote of 4-1, this ordinance is adopted. Now I move to the final ordinance, the ordinance for first reading. It's ordinance number 2025-26. Mr. Sherman?
An ordinance to accept the vacation of an undeveloped platted alley in the city of Mount Vernon, Knox County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Severance.
We will give this a first reading tonight.
Okay, this ordinance receives its first reading. That concludes the legislative portion of the meeting. We now move to remarks from the administration. Mayor Starr.
Thank you, Mr. President and Council. I caught you up to speed on my updates, so I'm not going to repeat anything there except one thing. But first, a couple things, I guess. Welcome, Zach. Glad to have you here. I signed the purchase order for your computer, so you'll be getting that soon. And I want to congratulate the city and all of our partners who helped make this, who have made this one of Ohio's best hometowns in 25 and 26. I understand that Mount Vernon will be featured on the October or November cover of Ohio Magazine, and so congratulations to everyone who made that possible. So, well done. That is all, sir.
Thank you. Sayers.
Welcome, Mr. Sherman, and thank you, council. We will get to work and keep you informed as we go. As all.
Mr. Stollers.
Oh, nothing further, Mr. President.
Mr. Brinkman.
Nothing to add, Mr. President.
Mr. Braun.
I'd just like to welcome our new clerk of council.
It's been that kind of night.
Mr. Severance.
Welcome, Zach, as the new clerk of council. That's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Mahan.
Also, welcome to Zach. Thank you to Todd for hanging out with us and making sure we didn't go all the way off the rails. I do just want to give a shout out to the folks who work in the parks and help maintain those. And I drove through, a citizen had emailed us a comment about the condition of Memorial Park and Harmony Park, and I just drove through on Saturday just to kind of see for myself, and that Memorial Park was packed. There were people everywhere, tennis, softball, kids all over the place, parents and set up those little temporary tents, and from what I could see, I mean, everything looked good. Now, when there's that many people, something's going to be, there's going to be a little piece of trash or something's going to be broken or something. But I feel like the park looked good, and I appreciate the work that goes into that, to keeping our parks looking good. And it was just great day to see people come in from out of town and citizens of Mount Vernon enjoying Memorial Park. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Sabo.
I just want to remind everybody that school is starting on the 20th of this month, which is sad. We lose our playmates. They go back to school. At least I'm sad about it. But so drive safely and watch out for them. And that's about all. Thank you.
And that is when the pool closes.
Well, yeah.
Wow. The 17th.
Oh, 17th.
Mr. Ruckman.
Actually, on the subject of the pool, I got to visit that with my family on Sunday, and that's the first time in a number of years that we've been there. It was given 2 thumbs up by all of the children, so just thank you to the city for having that and for everybody who works on that. So kind of, I guess, riding on the coattails of what Jay said about the parks, just really appreciate that. And I know I talk to a lot of people very frequently that do enjoy not only the parks, but the pool and the water park, so do appreciate that. And also, before we all gather back together, I want to wish my wife a happy anniversary. So we're going to have that before the next council meeting. So.
And how did you do on the water slide?
The water slide? They wouldn't let me on the water slide.
I've been on the water slide. I go there every year.
I wasn't tall enough, Bruce.
Mrs. Woods.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you very much for accepting the position. We're glad to have here a little bit of baptism by fire tonight with the amendments on the amendments. But, well, I guess there was just one amendment. I appreciate you being here. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that concludes the legislative portion of the meeting. Thanks to the media for being here this evening, and thanks for all those who participated in the Mount Vernon Music and Arts Festival. Big turnout, and it went well. A little warm when I was down there on Saturday, but I should have gone later in the day, I guess. That being said, a call for adjournment.
So move.
Second?
Then move to second, we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. We are adjourned.
Ooh, we are.